All right, this is going to be number 5 of our individual take-home program. For this, you're going to need a chair, a bench, a couch, something solid to support yourself on, as well as long of a towel as possible. Like always, you're going to perform a full warm-up. You'll then go through each exercise, pausing in between when it tells you to, making sure that even if it's a repeat exercise, you understand all of the cues. You watch the video in full, then pause it, perform, and then continue to play through. All right, let's get to our first one here. First one we have is our squat marches. You're going to do a complex with this with an extension plank leg lift. Our squat marches. We want to be very aware of our feet. Remember, big toe, little toe, and heel plugged in. We want to be aware of our lower back, our lean. Everything needs to be like we talked about in all of our other squats. So full squat or parallel squat position, corkscrewing that ground. And then what I'm going to do, and I'll face you on this, is I'm going to just march my feet back and forth. The goal is to not do this. That's going to be easy. It's just got to be a slight lift, trying not to let the hips adjust as you lift that foot, just an inch or half an inch off the ground. You're going to go 10 marches or 5 on each side, stand up, and then you'll go back down. You'll do that 5 times. So in total, it's going to be 50 marches for each set. Your complex, you're going to get in as much of an extension position as possible. So cliffhanger those arms out in front of you. So I'm going to be here, and then I'm just going to lift one leg, slowly bring it back down, then lift the other. Very similar concept, as you don't want those hips to wobble, just like you were trying to keep them in one plane when you were doing those squat marches. You can pause and perform. Our next exercise, it's going to be a single leg glute bridge hold. This, a lot of the work comes from you just thinking and understanding on this. So you gotta get that manual squeeze as you do this. So you're gonna be straight leg. You're going to thrust that hip through and manually squeeze. Now, this is going to reduce the tension. This is going to increase it. So keep that leg out as much as possible. And understand I'm on my heel, not my calf on this. I'm gonna squeeze, I'm gonna hold, and I'm going to alternate back and forth, very similar to last exercise, not letting yourself tilt as you trade from one foot to the other. On this, my complex is going to be a hollow hold rotation. I'm going to be in this position, balancing on my hip or on my butt, knees lifted, legs lifted, hands out in front. I'm going to keep my left arm in the exact position that it's in the start. I'm going to open up as full as I can, nice, slow, and controlled. Come back to center, alternating back and forth. Big thing on this, make sure you get good lean back to almost where you're about to fall back so you can center on that core as much as possible. And make sure when you do these, the legs don't counter that hand. So I shouldn't shift my feet over. I should keep that belly button and those legs straight forward. You can pause and perform. Next exercise, I'm going to go with a single leg pause hop squat. When I do this, same concept, feet on those 3 different points, big toe, little toe, heel. I'm going to have my back foot up on a bench, but again, that's just balancing me. I want to make sure most of my weight is on that front leg, so very little on that back leg. I'm coming down and I'm going to hold. From here, understand, let me do it with my front leg here for you. Understand where I'm engaging, making sure I'm holding not with my joint but with my muscle. From here, I'm going to pop up and absorb back down. So dynamic, not explosive, it's just a slight hop off the ground and a slow, controlled, eccentric back down to that same parallel squat position. Your complex on this, you'll lay on the ground, you'll do alternate V-lifts. So I'm going to be here, right arm, left leg coming up and back down. And then opposite. Slow and controlled. Goal is to get obviously equal meeting points at the top. You can pause and perform. Our next exercise, it's going to be a sliding side lunge. Now with this, it's great if you have something slick for your foot to move on, but it's not necessary. This should be really a single leg exercise. So I'm gonna perform this on my right leg, and my left leg is gonna slide out. Less friction, the better, but at the same time, you shouldn't need it. If you do need something to support onto, like bench or wall, that's fine. Big thing on this, make sure my hips go back, my knee doesn't track in, so I'm going to be sliding that foot out and then coming back in. Again, on this, because I'm on a rubberized surface with shoes on, you can put your socks on or take your shoes off and just have your socks so you can slide better, but it really shouldn't matter. I kind of just tap that foot out, get as low as I can, and then come back in. But again, making sure foot, knee, hip are somewhat in the same line on that, making sure that you have good upper body angle with the lower back pulled in, chest nice and big. Your complex on this is going to be a side leg raise hold. On this, again, most of it comes from your head. Turn your toe down and pull your toe to your shin. I'm going to come up as high as I can, forcing that toe down and up, and I'm going to hold it, trying to understand my focal point needs to be here on the outside of that hip, that glute medius. You can pause and perform. Our next exercise here is a single leg burpee. Just gonna be like we've done any other burpee before. We wanna make sure when we do these, it is done with the same posture that we had before. So our chest is big. We make sure our eyes stay up. We don't lean to the ground. We bend through our hips to the ground. On one leg, we kick out, bring that same foot back up and back up. When we jump, we need to make sure that we jump through our hips. Don't worry about your hands driving up. It should just be all hips on this. So again, squat to the floor, back, here, and back up, and then controlling through. This is not about speed, it's about understanding movement. Obviously, you'll perform both legs on this, and then you'll get to your stationary bear crawl, very similar to some other exercises we've done so far today. We want to make sure this is done slow and controlled, understanding that that hip and that core, that back stays in the same position. I lift my right arm and my left leg, and then I switch. Understanding just an inch, I'm lifting it off the ground. You can pause and perform. Okay, our next exercise, we move into upper body. It's gonna be our shoulder tap push-ups. With this push-up position, hands underneath your chest, I'm going to tap, tap, push-up. Tap, tap, push-up. Again, same thing. As we go to a three-point stance with the one hand lifting off, we cannot shift those hips or that spine. It's got to stay in that same position. We're going to go in an extension hill climber position next. So you're going to have hands all the way out in front, and I'm just going to perform that climber. So going here, the hands have to be out as far as possible, making sure that lower back doesn't sag down. If that happens, we need to pull those hands in and be aware of where that lower back's at. You can pause and perform. Our next exercise here, we're gonna go our floor W's. We're gonna be on the ground, making sure the movement comes from our shoulder blades, not from our torso. 90 degrees at the elbow and the armpit. Head straight forward so my spine's in a line. I retract my shoulder blades. I pull to my body and full extension up. Make sure if I cut my body in half, as I extend up, my hands are on this side of my body. This does not work. Shoulder blades need to be engaged and keeping those hands above. My complex with this, top of a push-up position. I'm going to lower myself down, extend myself up, back and forth here. Now again, just like any of our push-up exercises, whether it was the last one with the taps or we're doing our scap push-ups, we can always go in an inclined position to take away some of our body weight and be able to get better range of motion. We should feel those scaps roll across that rib cage, coming up and down as much as possible. No bend in the elbow on that. You can pause and perform. Our next exercise here is our push-up rotations. Again, they can be done on the floor. As we start to fail, we can go up onto a bench. Just make sure on this exercise, if we do put ourselves on an incline, we're very aware because you will be on one hand. It'll be easy for a bench if it's not sturdy enough to tip over. So something a little bit more sturdy is going to be better for this one. Or just actually having strength to be able to do it on the ground. So when I do this, I'm going to push up and then rotate open here, back down. Push up, rotate open on this. Now, we're going to alternate sides. I just wanted to show you facing you, but it's going to be open to the right and open to the left. And then very similar, what you're going to do is you're going to do a side plank rotation here where I'm going to come under and then open back up. These can be done on a posted arm, or if shoulders are fatigued, it can be done down here as well on that forearm. Try and get as much rotation as possible. You actually want your head to follow through, thread through, and then all the way up. Making sure when we do these, we're on the side of that foot, that spine is in one straight position from heel all the way to ear. You can pause and perform. Next exercise, we're going to need to grab our towel. Now with this, you're going to hold as far out as you can. Again, the longer the towel, the better. You can do it in 3 different spots here. You're going to do an iso hold. So I'm going to use my knees or my legs to determine the range. So I'm going to bend them, get my elbows at midline, 5-second hold here, pulling my shoulder blades back. Then I'll be at a half row position by extending my legs, pulling my shoulder blades back. Then I'll be almost full, pulling my shoulder blades back for 5 seconds, then middle, then full. The whole movement comes from shoulder blades retracting not just this way, but also try and tuck them towards your tailbone. The complex with this is going to be our bird dog rows, or our bird dogs. We'll be here, making sure that I'm aware that I'm not curled in that lower back. My hips are centered. I'm going to try and reach both sides of the room, not allowing that hip to tilt, trying to get as full extension as possible, and then controlling back down. Be very aware when you're doing these of the rotation in that spine, the potential curve in that spine. This is just as much about awareness as it is anything. You can pause and perform, and then you will start your stretching. That's going to be 15 minutes of active stretching. This should be the hardest part of your workout, making sure that it's geared towards your weakness, all right? If your weakness is within your hips, you should be doing more pigeon stretching. If your weakness is within your torso, you should be doing more rotational stretching within. So make sure you identify your weakness and then obviously cater to that.